What's up, podcast? So today I have Coach Denny Finley on. He is the principal at Lakeside Jr. and Senior High School, and actually the school I graduated from. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great. Thank you for
Man,
the opportunity to be on here.
for sure. I just wanted to, catch up with you. We hadn't spoken in probably about a year, and we've been through a lot of stuff. It's been an interesting year. But also, letting everybody get to know you a little bit. I don't really know anything about you previous to, getting into your teacher career. So can we start back, how you grew up and kind of what values were instilled in you growing up and how you decided to get to the teaching world and all that?
Well, I'm just an old country boy from Alla, Louisiana, which is central Louisiana. You had to travel about 30 miles to get to a Walmart when you live in Alla. You could go. It was a place that you could not lock your doors when you left. You could leave your vehicle unlocked with the keys in it. And I graduated from LaSalle High School. Had great parents and I had great influences around me. And really and truthfully, I was surrounded with great educators.
Yep.
And that's ultimately what led me into education. I could name a bunch of them, and that influenced my life. Matter of fact, just lost a major influence in my life this last week. My old elementary principal, Mr. Ray Butte, passed away this week, and he was definitely an influence in my life.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's I know it's one of those things, and no matter, I feel like once you lose somebody, you're able to kind of take those values and keep moving forward with them, and hopefully instill them in others, to carry on their legacy.
Absolutely.
So, what did you do? Growing up, what did you do, man? You were into sports? I know you're an outdoorsman. You still are into that, and I know you coached quite a few sports coming up in high school. What were you like as a kid?
I was very competitive.
Okay.
And I played every sport that I could play, and mainly because I wanted to compete. And it wasn't about trying to get to college, through a scholarship, which you see nowadays.
Right.
Everybody's going to get a scholarship. I think back when I was young, we played more because we just loved to play. And I think through that being competitive and the things I learned from my coaches, I think it definitely led me to where I'm at today. And, I still today, I'm trying to push our students to do the same thing, play everything you can play while you're in high school, because life is about competition.
Yeah.
And, when you go out to, compete for jobs, you're competing.
Yeah.
And I think what you learn in athletics carries over to the rest of your life.
Yeah, there's a lot to be learned, as far as I agree, because being able to have that team atmosphere, working with others and working together as a team to achieve something, whether it's in the classroom, or on the field, or just in life, whatever kind of group you have, because that when we grow up and we get to moving around in life, man, we got to have people to depend on, to talk to ask advice. Can't do everything by ourselves, unfortunately.
Well, one thing I'm seeing, and you've probably picked up on it as well, is kids are zeroing in on one sport now, and they're playing it year around.
Yeah.
And to me, I think when you play multiple sports, it makes you a better athlete, and one builds on another. And it seems like everybody's worried about getting that college scholarship nowadays. Really, academics is still what leads you to college.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Because I've seen a lot of with especially baseball in this area. These kids are playing baseball the entire year round, and I've seen a lot of injuries. Right after I come out of school until over the past few years, I've seen a lot of people who got into sports like that and doing the. Like a pitcher, I've seen so many pitching injuries where they've never took a break and constantly throwing a ball, and just literally there's no downtime there. And by the time they're doing all this to make it to college, they get to college, they injure themselves, and they literally hurt themselves for life for no reason.
And then one thing you see, and then a lot about this is the weight training.
Yeah.
every sport has its own type of workouts, and oftentimes our kids, they're not driven to go to the weight room
Yeah.
and hit it like your college and pro athletes do,
Yeah.
and so they're missing the mark there as well.
Yeah, there's something to be said in that I remember the old school football practice training, and doing your weight training, but any strength and conditioning where it comes from flexibility to actually conditioning the muscles. I mean, you got to have those things. It's just one of those things to get better. I mean, you're going to get to one level plateau and be stagnant there, and if you're going to be competitive, you got to have that competitive edge.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talking about sports, that kind of talking about competitiveness, and then in college kind of gets me to want to talk about what we're going through, how when I was growing up, and probably the decade before me as well, we were going to school, and you and I talked about this a little bit last year. We had a short conversation, but I would love to talk about it some more. Is we were so bent on going to college and doing everything in the classroom to go pursue that degree. And that's just how the world was made up, But now there's so many opportunities to do so many things that you may not necessarily have to have a degree, but the education aspect of it's still very important to learn how to work with others, learn how to, do tasks, get those things done, learn how to work, in a team, a classroom, and then also on your own to have that accountability at home to do your homework and stuff like that. I think those are still very important, but I feel like we're seeing a lot of kids that aren't taking the college route, but still are being entrepreneurs and being able to better themselves.
Well, I've said this for a long time, and you don't really expect to hear this from a principal a lot of times, but everybody doesn't need to go to college.
Right.
And unless there is something that you really want to be, to me, you're wasting your money going to college. And I think a lot of kids are doing just that. They feel like they've got to go. But there's other opportunities. There's trade school, apprenticeships, and one thing that the state of Louisiana has put in is our Jumpstart program. It's we have two pathways now to lead us to graduation, and one of those pathways is our TOPS pathway, which is our university pathway. If you're going to a 4-year university, and you have to take your things like foreign language, you have to take English 4. You have to take your advanced math classes, and the other one is our Jumpstart pathway. It's more of a career type pathway. You're learning a trade along the way.
Yeah.
And which is one of the first hires I made when I come to Lakeside is I hired Mr. Josh Utley to come in and teach ag here. Okay. I said, we're a country school and we don't have an ag teacher. And so I was, I talked to our superintendent at the time, and he agreed, and that is one of our strongest programs at the school right now. Well, when you go on the Jumpstart pathway, it takes away having to take the foreign language, the English 4, the advanced math. You take business math.
Right.
And it doesn't stop you from going to college, but you must go through a 2-year college like a BIPSI before going to a 4-year university.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, are you seeing a lot of kids, they're starting to take that route versus just, prepping to get a scholarship or prepping to, that entry to, trying to go to a local college or, one like Tech or LSU or something like that?
Well, at first it was kind of slow because that mentality was still there.
Yeah.
I've got to go the college route.
Yeah.
And for some reason, students thought, if I go the Jumpstart route, it doesn't sound as good.
Yeah.
But over time, it's kind of picking up steam, and people are realizing it's an outstanding route. If my own 2 kids wanted to go that route,
right,
I'd be okay with it because you can go to BIPSI and get a great education, and it's actually cheaper than going to a Louisiana Tech. Then they can transfer to your 4-year university, and kids are starting to figure that out. And then also we take what's called a work keys test, which kind of goes along with Jumpstart. And through the work keys test, it kind of gives you some ideas of what you're good at.
Yeah. Well, and for those who are maybe watching or listening, because I have a lot of people that aren't in the state, basically BIPC is Bossier Parish Community College, and that would be something they could enter into and then move to transition to a college or take that degree and run with it from there. Which is what I did. It was interesting because I come right out of high school and I just wanted to go right to work. I knew I had good grades and everything, but I was interested in making money. I was independent and more self-sufficient. But as I got into a corporate company, working in the oil and gas industry, I realized that, which is unfortunate now, and I feel like these policies are going to change over the next 10 years, but to get a step up into that company, I had to have a bachelor's degree. And I had no degree at all. So I realized that they would reimburse me for my tuition if I were to go to college. So what I did was I went online full-time to BIPC, achieved my associates there, and then moved to Northwestern State University and went to pursue my bachelor's there. And that was all online while I was, doing a full-time job. So there's, if you're wanting to go that education route and still work, it's very possible to do because I did it. You know what I mean? And then what we're dealing with now, which is another thing I want to talk about, is like all this remote stuff. 2020 has been crazy, and I'm sure it's been crazy for you guys and your educators and stuff, and the students. How do you feel like it's affected you guys your momentum moving forward into what we're going to look into next year with this senior class, and then also the students transitioning into high school from junior high? Because you have seventh through 12th grade there, correct?
6th through 12th.
6th, okay, that's right. Because you guys moved 6th in there. I believe it was 7th. I can't remember, but it's been a while. But yeah, what have you seen that with the transition with the doing the remote classroom stuff and not as much in-person contact?
Well, first I'll talk a little bit about what it took away from us. Yeah. But it's not just Lakeside. It did the same thing to every school. Yeah. Every school was pretty much working for to be an A school, and that's what was pushed from the State Department and from our central office. And here at Lakeside, we had worked extremely hard to become A school, and we probably would have been an A school this year, but since schools closed, they did away with the school report card, which everything we'd worked for just pretty much got ripped away from us. Man. Also, ever since I've been here, we had I've always been a firm believer that students need to be involved in the school. Yeah. So I had worked on our clubs. I had worked really hard on our sports programs. And take, for example, Coach Cooper, who was here when you were here, yeah, our girls softball coach, his little team would have had a chance to win the state championship last year, and they canceled the season on them. And so he's just hoping that he can get this year in. He's got everybody back again. Yeah. And now, as far as the remote learning, Webster Parish did a great job of transitioning into that, and they didn't rush and took their time, and it was a collaborative effort, and have rolled out a pretty good plan to reach the students. Now we have noticed that it's hard to keep up with those students sometimes. Yeah. Now, if that student has a parent that's checking on them, yeah, you can stay in contact with them. But some kids are not getting on and doing what they need to do. But the one thing that I worry about, long-term effects, is kids need to interact with other kids and adults, and I think they're missing that a little bit. Yeah. Some kids need it.
Oh, I can agree. It's just crazy the shift that you guys had to make right in the middle of the school year. Coming back off the holidays, starting the school off, getting ready to get the graduates out, and getting the flow of the end of the year rolled out, and graduation and all those things. All these schools have had to deal with. It's tough for educators. It's tough for kids, and there's no one. There's a lot of times. I mean, you have parents that are working full-time jobs. They may not be able to even if they're a lot of like blue collar workers are still working during the COVID, and where other people may be home where they can monitor their kids, but you got to have that accountability of somebody making sure they're doing what they're doing, and making this shift where all these schools are able to. I mean, it's just a lot. There's a lot at one time, and just to come out with your head above water is saying something,
It is. And it wasn't without some criticism from the public, but especially here in Webster Parish, I feel like we're blessed because our superintendent is from Webster Parish, Mr. Johnny Rowland, and our assistant superintendent is from Webster Parish, who is Mr. Kevin Washington. And so everything that they rolled out from central office was what they thought was best for the people in Webster Parish.
Right.
And they weren't looking for, political points or anything else. They were trying to do what was best for the students in Webster Parish.
What have you seen? And I mean, that's the route to go, because I mean, every single location and area, depending on industry and how people, how the economy is made up, is going to be different. It's just going to be a little bit different makeup of how they operate. What have you seen as far as the teachers making the shift too? Has it been hard on them? I feel like that's a lot of work, to go from, planning everything, in classroom to making this shift technological, especially if people, aren't that savvy with the computer or, apps or devices. How has that been?
Well, I'm fortunate here at Lakeside. I've got a young staff that I've hired most of them here. A lot of them graduated from Lakeside, but they're young and technology is easy to them, and they made the transition, great. Matter of fact, I've got lots of teachers here that are actually lead the parish, and anytime somebody's having trouble, my teachers are helping them out and leading professional developments and things like that. I think there probably been some, your older teachers around the parish, but from what I've seen, those older teachers have worked hard and adapted. Now, I think the one thing that's affected the teachers is a real educator. They like kids.
Yeah.
And they would rather have those kids sitting in that desk where they can interact with them. That's been the hardest part for the teachers that I can see.
I mean, I can see that too. I mean, I know like I said, every school is different in making that shift. I was impressed last year when I came, and that's why I'm going to talk to you, because how much that school has changed since I've been there. And it's from the outside looking in, because I don't know the interior buildup of what you guys are doing now, but just seeing, it transition to something that I feel like, how much have you guys grown? I believe when I graduated, I think there were 60 or 70 students in my class. I don't remember. It may have been less than that. Where are you guys, like, capacity wise? How much have you grown?
I'm not real sure. We have grown though, but we definitely haven't went down in numbers. I think we're sitting around 588 students.
Okay. And do you think being a smaller school, you're able to hyper focus more on growing these kids academically than, a larger scale school? Because I noticed, and my head was kind of up my butt a little bit too back in the day, but whenever I remember moving there my junior year, and I love the small town mentality, because I come from a 5A school to a 2A school, and it was a complete culture change for me. But it was also everyone knew everyone, which is kind of cool, because the school that I was at previous, was so large that there was cliques, of students, and a lot of times you never even got to know your entire class. So I do think that that's one thing that I can say I really enjoyed about it, was coming in, and it almost created a community,
Well, that's one thing that I've really tried to push since I've been here. And, I come from LaSalle High School, where the school is the community.
Yeah.
And the school rallies behind, or the community rallies behind the school. And that's one thing I've pushed here as well. The school is for the students, but I also want to give the community something to be proud of. And it's been my goal to, one day when we play a football game, for, the seating to be taken up, that we have to add more bleachers in the football stadium. And not necessarily just because people love football, but because they want to come out and support the school.
Yeah.
It's, I just think that we've went away from that in America and in a lot of our schools, but I think it's still needed.
Yeah. A sense of community is definitely lost. I felt like when COVID first hit, we all come together And then, as we stayed apart, away from each other so long, then it started breeding, more negative vibes.
Mhm.
But I think that when you say that, like being the central source of community, you're in a rural area with a lot of outlining small towns where these people may never cross each other's paths. They may live 30 to 45 minutes a commute per day for work, wherever it may be, and they may never get to know these other people from that community around. So I think that does, not only get all the students together, but also get all the grandparents and the parents and everyone, a new sense of networking. And you guys are the source of that. And I've seen that too grow a lot since back, whenever the school opened a few years right before I was there.
And you talked about the benefits of a smaller school. I think one of the key benefits is that we know all the students.
Yeah.
And in most cases, if a student is not handling their business, most cases I know mom and daddy and grandma and grandpa. Yeah. And it's easy for me to pick the phone up and call them.
Yeah. I think that's something that, is missed a lot, because if you have bigger areas, you're just not able to do that. The funding, you guys don't make as much as you should, in my opinion. There's usually short staffed in most schools, and especially if you're in larger areas, those teachers and faculty may not have the time or the resources to one-to-one with every single child, and that just makes it a little bit harder on them, so being that you guys have a little bit more opportunity there makes it good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I wanted to ask you something too, because right when I was coming out of school, how long have you been there now? As far as
I think I've been at Lakeside. This is the 20th year, I think, of Lakeside.
Okay.
And I think I've been here 19 years.
Okay. And how long have you been a teacher?
At the end of this year, it'd be 23 and a half years.
Got you. Okay. So you've seen a lot. A shift in education and growth and what you guys are doing. It's been a entire different transition for the industry. And it's like right when I was coming out of school, we barely were using text messaging. We weren't on Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was no, there weren't these media platforms or these places where we could, go and network and learn things, or we couldn't pick up our phone and Google easily. What has it been like? I feel like everything has changed where you're teaching. Now you're not teaching, you're probably teaching more of accountability and some substance and worth ethic than you would be, hey, you need to learn this one piece of American history, because that's the class you taught me in, out of a book, when you can really just go Google those items now. Used to, you had to really learn those things and focus on those fact points, where I feel like it's easily accessible by everyone.
It's definitely changed now. It's every student in Webster Parish was issued a Chromebook this year.
Yeah.
So they all have their personal, basically a laptop at their disposal. And your teachers, that's what they're using in the classroom. They've got that Chromebook open. I just paid to get Go Guardian put in on for the teachers to utilize. That's where the teachers can sit there and they can control what the kids can go to on the Chromebook. And if the kids are trying to look during a test, if the kids are trying to look up anything, they can freeze that computer because they'll pick up on it. Yeah. It's kind of scary to think about what the next 20 years will hold. Every teacher has what's called a Promethean board at Lakeside. If they want one, they've got it. And my math teachers have a podium that has a built-in computer in the podium where they can control everything that goes on the Promethean board and never turn their back on the class.
Really?
People can argue back and forth. Is it good? Were y'all better off back then, not having the smartphones and all that? And of course, I'm old, so I'd probably say yes. Because, in administration, you mentioned Facebook. A lot of times, as the principal, what that gets you is kids. That's where they're getting their news from, and then or either somebody will talk about somebody on Facebook, and you have to clean it up when they get to school. But it is what it is, and it's the way of the future. So why not prepare them for what they're going to be utilizing in the future?
Yeah. I mean, technology doesn't discriminate, that's for sure. We have to keep that momentum moving forward. And I think that, it is what it is. I believe that, everyone having a social platform now, you have access to everyone, whereas someone had some bit of privacy. But I just think these kids, and I'm not an educator, but I just, from what I've seen growing up and, being in marketing and I am in the social media business. So it's like, I see these people transition, and I feel like there's a need to have these access to these things, but it also there's got to be some sort of accountability, because I'm sure you guys are dealing with it a lot and have over the few years, as far as like used to it was bullying, in the classroom or at the school, and now you're dealing with bullying via social media, whatever it may be, which is bullying. And it's like, there's no accountability or really way to trace that down and put your finger on it, as there is just setting two people down and saying, okay, what's going on?
Absolutely. And I think the cyberbullying is probably worse than the in-person
Right.
bullying. There's no way to hardly get it stopped
Right.
in a lot of cases. And then it's out of our control at the school.
Well, what do you guys, what have you seen as far as, trying to move forward and move past those issues you may run into, as far as letting that negativity breed into the school and, taking over that stuff? How do you kind of circumvent that and bypass it and try to get around it and move forward in the best interest of the kids?
Well, we're always preaching positivity in the school. We last year, of course, the COVID's kind of taken us out of it, but if you walk down our hallway, we have banners going down the hallway, and what they are the 7 habits of successful people. There's a book called 7 Habits of Successful People, and we spent time twice a week teaching lessons on each habit throughout the year, teaching kids how to cope with things instead of when they get mad, doing something that's going to cause them more trouble. How can they respond in a better way? And you and I are probably a lot better at it now than we were when we were young.
Of course.
And so we don't want a silly decision that they make right now to affect them later on in life. And we want each one to be successful. It's always a teacher or an educator. They love to see that kid that necessarily doesn't come from the best household, that sometimes don't have what they need. We love to see that type of kid go on and beat where they come from and be successful.
Yeah, there's something to say about that, because when the odds are all stacked against you and you're able to, get over that wall, it's just, it just means more, and it's more of a better story to tell, for those other kids that may be facing those, obstacles too. I think when you said the levels of success, I feel like as a kid, you measure success as who's got that flashy new car or those new clothes, and as you grow older, you realize that's not really success. Success is being able, like you said, one of the points is cope and being able to deal with things and moving forward no matter what you're facing. And, as far as being able to handle issues and, be there for your family and all those things, that's what I measure success as now, not, what you used to, and also what you may as a current student. So instilling those values early is pretty important.
That's right. And I say all the time, you can't, success is definitely not how much money you make. Doing what you love to do and being happy is success.
I tell everyone, it took me 10 years to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up. It's not, you're not going to have it figured out whenever you come. Some people they come out of high school, they have it figured out. They think they do. They go into something. You realize you hate it. You may go to school for 4 years in college after you finish your, grade school, and then you graduate with a degree that you realize once you get into that industry, you hate that. And then you have to do something different. It happens all the time. The worst thing I hate to see is being in this industry. I've worked with people who have degrees and I work with people who haven't. What I hate to see is people that go into doing something because they think they need to. Someone told them they should do that. They feel like that's a good fit for them, getting into it and hating it and then continuing to do it throughout their whole career and then building resentment up and just being, not being happy.
Yeah, you're not doing anybody any good when you do that, including yourself. That'd be like being a teacher and not necessarily liking kids and being miserable. You're not doing the kids any good, or you're not doing yourself any good.
No, I mean, you're building a constant, just a constant contradiction there. But I mean, it happens a lot. I see it a lot. Being in the workforce and being in business to business. I do a lot of business to business, and I really do see it. And people go to that route because they measure success as money. They want to do it for money. Like, I want to go and do this because I want to make a lot of money, and then they get there and they just hate it. And that's something I want to hopefully help you guys out with, this talk to these kids. Eventually, once we get back into a public platform where we can actually sit down and talk, is that you don't have to do what everyone wants you to do. You don't have to, just because dad thinks you need to be a lawyer doesn't mean you have to be. You got to do what you want to do. And a lot of times you just don't know that until you get into the nuts and bolts and work and realize, okay, this is for me or it's not for me.
Exactly. And we're looking forward to when things get back to normal, getting you into the school. And since we'd met prior to COVID and it was in the works, we never got to do it. I love having alumni come back in.
So you have quite a few alumni there that are on staff now. How many do you have?
I don't know. I'd probably say half the faculty is nearly alumni here.
That's crazy.
And I love that. Yeah. I love that because when they walk in, they've got that pride when they walk in. And of course, I'm pretty fortunate now. The ones that didn't graduate from here have pride. It's like one big happy family at Lakeside. And I tell everybody, my success is the staff here at Lakeside. And my administrative team is excellent. My teachers, I'd argue with anybody, they're the best in the state of Louisiana. And on down to the custodial staff, we're one happy family down here.
Yeah, and your wife, she was also a teacher when I was there, I believe. Is she still, or what is she doing now?
She is the principal at Richardson Elementary.
Okay, so y'all both are just doing it over there. That's awesome.
Yeah. She's better than me now. I get my pointers a lot of times from her. Yeah.
I remember she had I believe I had her the first class of the day, and she had a strict no falling asleep policy. Because unfortunately, when I was younger, we'd like to stay up late and do things we probably weren't supposed to do, but I still made it to school, but sometimes I'd doze off, and you can't get an A in that class if you fall asleep.
I bet she straightened you out.
She did. Well, how does that, you guys have, I believe you have 2 boys, right?
I do. I've got one at Louisiana Tech, and I've got one that is a 7th grader here at Lakeside.
Hey, awesome.
We kind of spread them out.
Yeah. Well, how does that go? Like, how do you separate your home life, being that both of you guys are in the exact same field as far as, education, and then like turning it off once you get home? I feel like being a principal, you're always going to be in it. Like, you're going to get calls 24/7. You really can't turn that off.
You do, but your home life has got to be the most important part of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, your family is your family. And now so much of mine and Michelle's life and education, our kids have done it with us. I can remember coaching baseball. Both of my kids, they'd be on the baseball bus with us before they could almost, really walk. Yeah. And the kids would just take them in. The kids would babysit, pass them back and forth across the seats. And so they grew up on the ball field and roaming the halls here at Lakeside. And of course, I thought, well, maybe my oldest, I said, maybe he'll want to be an educator.
Yeah.
Well, I think he spent too much time in the school growing up, so he wanted to be anything but an educator.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, I feel like you're the type of guy too. You're not going to give your children, just because they may be students or on the team, no kind of shortcuts either.
No, I don't. Matter of fact, I try to just leave them alone and let them do their thing.
That's good. Well, I mean, so back to as far as the culture of the students, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit more. Is like, what are you seeing now with this virtual learning versus in the classroom? How it's affecting productivity with the kids who may have? Is it throwing people off who may have been productive? Is what I'm saying. Like, you're always going to have some students that may struggle no matter what. But are you seeing people, go above and beyond, or are you seeing like a shift there? What are we looking like?
We're actually seeing both, and we're seeing some that are excelling. Again, I go back to Webster Parish Schools. Um, I think they've rolled out an excellent virtual platform.
Yeah.
And I think probably one thing that we're seeing that's hurting our students a little bit is at the end of last school year, we were closed in March. And so they couldn't take their finals, and it made it difficult to really determine who passed, who failed.
Right.
And a lot of people probably were, their grades were adjusted to because we were out early. And I think some of them are still a little bit confused, thinking that that's going to be the case this year. But we're moving ahead, and there's no excuse.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're under quarantine now, you should never miss a beat. You should just roll right along, because the Lakeside teachers, they know how to meet virtually and do everything virtually that you can do in person now.
Yeah, that's not an excuse, is what you're saying. They've been doing it for a year. Yeah, they've been doing it for a year, and they have all the the equipment and the technology, so they should be able to do it. I feel like that's one of those things that I mean, it's better said that way.
I think virtual is here to stay too. I don't think it's going anywhere.
That's another thing, that some people, some people love that idea, some people hate it, but like we said before, we really can't make, it's not up to us. We just got to roll with the punches and move forward. I feel like you guys are doing a good job of that. Well, man, I just wanted to get on here and catch up with you a little bit, and I appreciate your time. Is there anything that we may have not talked about, any kind of words of encouragement or anything you may want to tell anybody? Because, I have a lot of people listening to this show and watching it that may not be in this state, maybe in another area, maybe interested in doing what you do for a living, or maybe a parent at home, that may need some guidance or some advice. I feel like, anything you may have for them, we should go ahead and share that too.
Well, I think that this is the greatest profession on earth, because what you do and what you teach kids, will carry on for years and years. And there's no better profession than to help people get a start in life. If they go on to be a doctor, you or a lawyer or a teacher, you had a little bit to do with it. Yeah. And the influences you make on them, they're going to remember you. And try to support your local school systems. We've entered a time where it's not always popular in the news media, and people are beating teachers and school systems up, and it's a very tough job, sometimes not rewarding in the public, but at the end of the day, it's really rewarding. And there's just get involved and do what you can and help out each individual school system, I think would be my words of encouragement. And one thing I always preach to the kids here at Lakeside, I'm going to start every announcement off every day is it's a great day to be a warrior.
Yeah. And that's the alma mater, but also that's something to be said in life. You know what I mean? You got to push forward and you got to fight. It's not going to be a cakewalk. We've seen that already. You know what I mean? It's nothing we do is easy anymore.
Exactly.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on today, and look forward to seeing you guys soon. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and thanks again for the opportunity to hang out.
You too. Come on by one day.
All right, man. Everyone, please subscribe to the podcast.